Alright, people. So, I think I'm gonna take a little detour from the topics that I normally cover. I'm thinking that the topics like I normally cover are more on like the stoic, realistic, more on like suck it up and just do the work type of tone that I've been carrying on in this channel. I do want to take a little break from that and try to talk on something that's more positive and that's more I guess trying to bring people up instead of just saying just suck it up, just do it, right? So the topic I want to talk about right now is essentially like if am I learning, truly learning, or am I just surviving, right? Um, I do recognize that this sounds a bit too serious and a bit not accomplishing the goal that I'm trying to reach right now, but I'm going to try to make sure that you know we get something good from this conversation, right? Instead of just saying, "Ugh, just gotta do it," right? But anyways, I do want to identify who would be my audience right now. My audience would be pretty much students who are either in university or community college, and of course those who chose not to go to community college or school in general and decided to pretty much join the workforce or even trade schools or do something that's more humbling, right? And it's not necessarily that does not necessarily require a degree. And all respect to those, who decide to pursue their own path, assuming that it leads to greats and glory, right? But anyways, the core message here is just identifying what the difference between learning and surviving, right? One feels like one feels like forward motion, while the other one feels like I'm just in the waters, and I feel like just surviving can disguise itself as growth. So I'm thinking that I used to think I was growing until I realized I was just coping. Is a sentence that you could probably relate. Sometimes you would feel like becoming better. It just feels like you're becoming better on not breaking. Hence the word survival. And perhaps this can be a bit scary. I'm thinking that the first part I want to talk about is essentially this, right? Survival is disguised as growth. So the tasks that you do on the day on the regular, it could be that you're just busy. It could be exhausting. It sounds like you're always putting out fires, like solving problems. It sounds like you're evolving, right? You're constantly always busy. You're exhausted from a good day's work, and it feels like you were able to resolve certain issues. But at the end of the day, you start to ask yourself if anything really changed, right? Is there a new depth to what I've learned or to what I've done? Is there a growth in mindset? Is there did I have acquired a new skill set? And of course, all of this just points to: am I just enduring the daily tasks? Perhaps it does sound like I'm just surviving, right? Especially if you're surrounded by a work environment that's just toxic, or other people outside of work that you just happen to be surrounded by is just a bunch of assholes. And you just start to ask yourself, like, are you building tolerance to what drains you, right? Are you just ignoring that one toxic manager, or are you just ignoring that one person who's always just being a dick to you just because, I don't know, just because that they are? You start to ask yourself, like, am I just avoiding certain people just because I don't want to deal with it, or because I just know better than to just deal with it because you would know yourself, and you would avoid how things will turn out. So essentially, survival being disguised as growth is essentially you growing a certain tolerance, or becoming very it's just a practice of endurance against this toxic environment around you. The second part I want to touch on is just the obvious signs that you're just surviving, signs that will signal somebody that they're just stuck in survival mode. And I'm thinking that, repeating the same routines with no excitement, it's definitely just a sign of you just going along with the flow and seeing what happens. You feel like you're learning just enough to keep up with courses for those who are in university, but you seem not to get ahead, perhaps because you're just falling behind naturally, because you're just starting to burn out. You just can't handle. Well, I wouldn't say not handle, because that implies that we're lame. I would just say you just naturally you just grow tired of just doing the same things, right? Perhaps to those who are reluctant against change, but at the same time they know something should change, but they just don't know what should. I'm thinking also measuring success by how much somebody has endured instead of measuring how much was created is definitely a sign that, okay, I'm just going through it, and hopefully to see the light of day at the end of it. The third part I want to touch on is to identify what real growth feels like, right? So pretty much the opposite of what I just talked about, right? So growth feels like a certain level of discomfort, but with purpose, right? And an easy example of this is the gym, right? The discomfort of pushing your body to its limits, but at the end of the day you will get stronger physically, right? It's also important to identify how this looks like in an emotional aspect. I'm thinking that learning feels more intentional, even though it's slow, right? So we go to the library to study, and in the beginning we struggle to understand the material, but after some consistency, you start to understand. Oh God, like things are starting to click now, right? Thinking, starting to connect the dots, right? Establishing a connection between the mistakes you have done in the past, and of course, that translating to progress in the future. Right, we tend not to commit the same mistakes multiple times. We tend to learn from what we did, and to improve on the similar situations that we find ourselves in the future. And I'm thinking the most important one out of part 3 is the following. I think we tend to reflect more often than just reacting to something that just happens to us. Thinking, I do want to build on reflection. Most importantly, or specifically, self-reflection. Thinking the understanding and analyzing what just happened. If you were found in a certain social setting that made you feel uncomfortable, how you went about it, and how you perhaps want to deal with it later. Other situations could be academics. Maybe you were too busy talking with other girls instead of just spending time in your studies. You wouldn't want to repeat that process again for the next exam, right? Or it could be something physical, like you're playing team-based sport, and then something happened that you could have done something more about, right? So things to think about, right? Like you start to reflect on what happened, and you want to find a solution that best resolves the issues within the same environment. I think the last one, or at least part 4, is how to shift from surviving to learning, right? So I'd advocate for us to reflect weekly on what did I learn this week, what did I do, is there any problems that I've grown from. The second would be to pursue something new. It doesn't have to be related to your job. It doesn't have to be related to academics. Just something new, a new habit for you to delve into and to explore your interests. The third point would be to rest with a purpose. I wouldn't say rest is laziness. It just recovers people who are just mentally strained from the day, right? It's one thing brain rotting, and it's another thing completely just shutting off your body and just trying to rest for the next day, right? The last one here would be reframing from mistakes. Uh, you know, convert shame to self-reflection. That ultimately translates to feedback. So for my ending remarks, I do want to say, survival is definitely noble. You made it through the certain situation that you found yourself in. But to be honest, like we're not made to just simply go through things and just another practice of endurance. Right? We're here to build something, to construct something. We are here for something. So we're gonna have to ask ourselves, are we okay? Am I supposed to speak with somebody, or is there a best friend out there that you want to bounce off ideas with? And definitely ask yourself, like, am I learning in my journey towards whatever goal that you want to fight towards? Because I'm thinking surviving does definitely get you to tomorrow, but I'd argue that learning is what changes your life in the long run. Alright, fellas, I'm hoping that I'm hoping that this tone of the video is a bit more positive. Perhaps not, but we'll see in the long run. Alright, fellas, later.